In the 2120s, we can mine the air really efficiently and pull out carbon dioxide to use for whatever we want. In the 2020s, you're just starting to use that technology, and you're applying it both from direct air carbon capture plants and from localized carbon capture operations at facilities that do carbon dioxide production, like power plants or other sort of chemical operations. What can you build with this carbon dioxide that you've captured and repurposed? Three really big categories. One is fuel. You can make a whole bunch of different kinds of fuels with recycled carbon dioxide of any kind, either direct capture from the air or captured at a factory or found on the street, whatever. You can make jet fuel, you can make butane, you can make any carbon-based fuel with this, and you use electrolysis, aka zapping, to separate the oxygen and the carbon to start the process, and then you combine the carbon with other things to make fuel. So that's one really obvious, super useful thing you can do with carbon dioxide. And yes, you still will then go on to burn that fuel, but you're creating a closed system where you're recycling it instead of just burning more and adding to this growing pile. You're starting to mine and recycle, so you're creating a loop. That's a big part of the solution going forward, but it's not the whole thing. Something else you can make though that's incredibly useful is polyester. One of our dear old friends in the pronunciation library of future history is polyethylene terephthalate. Perhaps you've enjoyed saying these words yourself. It's PET for short, and it stands for polyethylene terephthalate. And that's polyester. It's the fancy British name for polyester. No, it's just a grown-up name. It's just the name. It's polyester's name. But you can make lots of stuff with polyester, like obviously clothes, fabric that you sleep on, wiring, insulation, LCD displays like filters for your car, even certain kinds of film. It's very, very common and it's super duper useful. And the benefit of making physical stuff with it is that that stuff stays in the world for a longer time, as opposed to the fuel which you're burning up right away. So if you pull carbon dioxide from the air, then convert it into ethanol using a bacteria process, and then make that ethanol into polyethylene terephthalate by breaking it down still further, you can then store that carbon dioxide that you've pulled down in the world, in physical things, for a very long time. That's great. The third and most useful, ultimately, thing that you can do with carbon dioxide as a recycling effort is you can make graphene. Graphene is an incredibly useful and super powerful material. It's about 40 times stronger than diamonds and 300 times stronger than steel. So you can see how that would have some obvious applications. It's very lightweight, potentially, because it can be super duper thin. It's basically just a sheet of carbon atoms in little hexagonal arrangements. It's a semi-metal, so it has some conductive properties. It can be flexible, it can be incredibly strong, and you're going to eventually build lots of stuff with it. In the 2020s, you're still early in that journey, and maybe we'll do a deep dive on graphene another time to talk about its specific applications. But in the big picture, you're going to use it in all sorts of things: robust clothing, space suits, space ships, other things that you use in space, like space cereal bowls. You could use it for space elevators, you could use it for regular sneakers, you could use it on lightweight camping gear. You know, anything that you're using steel or diamonds for, you could use graphene instead. And you can get it, again, using electrolysis, aka zapping, to separate the oxygen and the carbon from the carbon dioxide that you've pulled out of the air or out of your localized factory. And you can also do other various kinds of things to get from carbon dioxide to graphene. And in the 2020s, you're starting to do this. You actually have some of these operations up and running, but they're experimental, they're early. They use special kinds of metal as catalysts. Some of them involve very high heat, like 1,000 degrees Celsius. So you're not at your most efficient version of this, which you'll get to later in the century. But the big picture is you're going to be able to take carbon dioxide and make really useful stuff with it that lasts a very long time and you can take into space. All right, so that's three big things you can make: fuel, polyethylene terephthalate, and graphene from carbon dioxide, all of which you've pulled from the air. So that's going to be a big, exciting part of solving the climate catastrophe, which you'll largely do by the end of the century. Good luck with that. Bye.